Welcome to MediaShift's Digital Media Brief, brought to you by NextSpace and NextKids Co-working and Childcare in San Francisco. I'm Mark Glaser with guests Jessica Jackley, co-founder of Kiva and author of Clay, Water, Brick, Dan Fletcher of Beacon, David Cohn of Al Jazeera, and Khari Johnson of Through the Cracks. Kiva co-founder Jessica Jackley's new book, Clay, Water, Brick, describes how the microfinance site was able to spread new form of loans that connected small entrepreneurs in the developing world with people who wanted to help them. Meanwhile, independent journalists have been in search of a dependable business model and been trying out crowdfunding on numerous platforms with mixed results. Jessica, what was the problem that Kiva was trying to solve, and how did you help alleviate that to some extent?
So we wanted to tell a new story, number one, and we wanted to provide a new way for people to respond to those stories, number two. And the way that we thought folks would respond best and would want to respond best when they heard not these stories of sadness but these stories of entrepreneurship instead would be through a loan, a 0% loan to from lenders all over the world to individuals in need.
And David, do you think the microloan or microfinance model can work to help independent journalists?
Similar to NPR or ProPublica or Texas Tribune or any nonprofit, the idea behind crowdfunding for journalism is not new, right? People donate to journalism. The difference with certain crowdfunding sites is that it's more transparent and more participatory about where the money goes. You, the reader, now has a say in what journalism you want to support. And so it's that act of making it more transparent and more participatory, which is where the value add is, rather than this idea of one time that's going to come back to you and then you can just sort of circulate that money again and again.
And Dan, tell us about Beacon and how it can help to fund journalists.
Yeah, so Beacon is a crowdfunding platform devoted specifically to crowdfunding for journalists. To date, we've got more than $1 million in coverage, and we work with both publications and individual journalists. And we spend a lot of time both with individual journalists and the publications we work with, understanding how to put these crowdfunding campaigns together, understanding where pledges come from. Email is a lot more powerful than Twitter, for example, but every journalist just wants to get out and tweet their campaign and doesn't do all that much. And increasingly, we're providing more and more matching funds to projects coming to the site. We did this last year with Climate and the Environment, where we had $100,000 worth of matching funds for journalists who touched on one of those issues. And coming up in the fall, we'll have some much larger programs to announce.
And Khari, which crowdfunding platforms do you think are best for journalism projects?
There's two things that can drive the success of a campaign, and that's a lot of people coming in and, a lot of reach, and, a piece of that, gives, or you have a lot of passionate people who are into that cause. So, I think it can depend on what you're crowdfunding for, and as some studies have shown in the past, the specific topic that you're crowdfunding for can determine people's interest in it.
Well, thanks for joining us for the Digital Media Brief for MediaShift, brought to you by NextSpace and NextKids. Learn more about their pioneering program combining co-working and childcare at nextspace.us/nextkids. We'll catch you next week.